Hey guys, Brandon, also known as Orange Christian. Today I want to talk about people that take the stance of, quote, atheism, unquote.
Okay, if you insist. But first we're going to talk about people who take the stance that vertical video is just fine. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. Today we're dealing with a fellow called Armored Christian, and I really hope that's not a riff on Armored Skeptic, to whom you should all be subscribed. Anyway, he seems to think that the burden of proof in the does God exist debate doesn't fall on believers. It's a tired old argument, but if they're still using it, then it's obvious there's still work to be done. So here we go.
When you take the stance of atheism, you decline that there is proof for God. So to say that the burden of proof is then on theists is then hypocrisy. It is contradictive to your belief.
You telling me what my belief is? That's a paddlin'. I tell you what my belief is.
You believe there is no evidence, no proof. And yet you still say that the burden of proof is on us.
Well, yeah. You're the ones making the claim that a God exists. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if you weren't bringing it up, and I still wouldn't believe in a God. But if you're going to say there is a God, and then not provide sufficient evidence to verify the truth of your claim, then you've failed your burden of proof, and I will continue to not believe in a God. The obligation to prove the claim is and will remain on you, the one that's saying that something does exist.
And since you guys believe that there is no proof for God, which is why you're an atheist, and we believe that there is proof because we can observe it and such, things that relate to each other in existence, it is then concluded that you are blinded.
And from our side, it's concluded that you're deluding yourselves. You say you can observe things. Fine, so can we. But observation without experimentation is not enough for deductions or conclusions made to have any merit. And so to say that your claim has any merit without having done the heavy lifting of lab work is self-delusion, or at best, wishful thinking.
So you guys, atheists, take the stance that there is no proof for God because of the stance that they take of atheism.
Telling me what my stance is and why? That's a paddlin'. Especially since you've got it ass backward, which is weird because you said it right the first time. I'm not an atheist, therefore I claim there is no evidence for God. I'm an atheist because there is no evidence for God.
You believe, because you're an atheist, that there is no proof and evidence. And yet you say that the proof and evidence is on us. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, of course it doesn't make any sense. It's wrong. It's backward. First, understand, everybody starts out as an atheist, unless you want to claim that somehow belief in a God is inherent to all people from birth or even conception. But given how long it takes babies to learn to pick up and eat a Cheerio, I don't buy that for a second. So the only way you're going to stop being an atheist is to believe in a God, and doing that requires being told about one, or discovering that God for oneself. And if both sources of religious information are not convincing, then that person's atheism, their non-belief, remains intact, and thus religion has failed in its burden to convince.
The proof and evidence that I have is that living conscious beings began to exist inside a universe that began to exist. So then, it is thus rational to believe that the cause of the beginning of the universe is from a living conscious being. And that living conscious being brought forth all of this.
Okay, here is where you mess up.
It is thus rational to believe that the cause of the beginning of the universe is from a living conscious being.
That isn't rational at all. In fact, it's a gigantic leap, jumping from there being a universe that contains intelligent life to an intelligent super life form creating it all. Where do you get that from? Did you find this super being signature carved into the Earth's crust somewhere, or spelled out in the stars? There are plenty of hypotheses about the origins of the universe, life, and intelligence that function just fine, no God required. Sure, they're not perfect, or even necessarily certain, but they're backed by far more evidence than what you've just advocated, which, as near as I can tell, amounts to little more than seeing a universe with humans in it, therefore God. Like I said, that's one hell of a baseless jump.
the universe, meaning power. You have to have power to have the capability of doing so, to bringing stuff into existence from nothing. Thus, God. Thus, a living conscious being.
Again, another baseless logic jump. Power does not require consciousness, unless you're claiming that there are electricity fairies in your power outlets. Yes? No? Maybe instead of a god, it's the Force. Maybe the universe is its own power source. After all, we get energy from heat, from light, from nuclear fusion, and so on. If mindless energy can exist, and it does, then claiming a god was necessary requires more evidence. And then, of course, there is the question of infinite regress, where if power is required for something to come into existence, what made that power come into existence? And then that power, where does it end? If you're going to claim that it was an intelligent super being, you have to not only show that it was, but also how it can be the eternal source of everything. Otherwise, we can give equal, if not more, credence to a mindless energy source or any other possibility. You've left out too many intermediate steps, too much necessary evidence for your story to be taken as more than a guess or wishful thinking. It may sound great in your head, but out in the real world, it amounts to little more than storytelling.
So that's called a logical proof for God. It doesn't require physical evidence.
By that method, then, I could prove anything. Galaxy Quest. It was a cheesy movie, therefore it logically follows that a block of cheddar was necessary to write and direct it. And campy movies are obviously written and directed by tents. There's your logical proof for the origins of silly movies, and it doesn't require physical evidence. You don't believe me? Why not? Is it because you know the capabilities of cheese and the sources of movies? Well, how do you know those? Oh, right, physical evidence. From real-world experience, you know the nature of cheese and of motion pictures, and their sources. What seemed at first like quite reasonable logic, after all the pieces did fit before we looked too hard, it all fell apart once we did some real-world digging. And if you understand why this source of movies proof was nothing of the sort, maybe you'll start to understand why your existence of God proof is similarly faulty.
But, you atheists, you like to be like, well, you need to physically provide evidence. If there's no physicality, there's no proof. Okay, so you're telling me then, using that logic, that if, let's say you're a troublemaker, right? Your parents, they don't believe anything you say. You're just a troublemaker, right? So, one day you get into a fight, someone pulls a gun on you and shoots you in the leg. You go to your mommy and daddy and they tell you, okay, what happened? And you'll be like, well, someone shot me in the leg. And they'll be like, well, I don't believe you. Simple as that. I don't believe you. I mean, you have given us no reasons to believe you. You've been a complete douchebag,
That's what security cameras and every jackass with a cell phone is for these days. Proof. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of you. You've got the evidence.
So why should I believe you? I mean, who's to say you shot yourself in the foot? Or leg or whatever. You see my point here? The point is that individuals experience, and it's up to those individuals to speak about their experiences, and whether or not you believe that experience has no bearing on the fact that they experienced it.
And whether or not they experienced it has no bearing on whether or not it was real. Emotions, preferences, beliefs, or hell, chemicals or visual distortions can all get in the way of the truth. We can't take someone's experiences as fact, not when it comes to understanding the universe. We need evidence. We need to test that evidence. We need to make sure. Otherwise, as I said, it's just wishful thinking, even if we're right.
Please don't comment back. If you guys comment, that's fine, but I don't want to have to go on a blocking spree or deleting spree. I don't want to have to delete every single comment again like I did in the past. I don't know if any of you guys know that, but I used to delete every comment from every atheist.
Well, I don't think you're going to like me very much. I made a whole damn video.
No one wanted to try to understand my words. They only wanted to attack what I was saying, which, it's just ridiculous, man.
So, is there a difference between understanding and agreeing? Can someone disagree without attacking? Because I understood what you're saying. It just isn't correct. The attempted logic isn't logical. There are a lot of necessary pieces that are missing. How do I explain this without you feeling attacked? Is it even possible? Or am I just blocked automatically? Speaking of which, until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think.
Ignorance killed the cat. Curiosity was framed.